there, it's Amy Schmidt, your host of the Fearlessly Facing 50 and Beyond podcast. I am so happy that you have chosen to spend time with me. As a reinvention confidence expert, along with a storyteller, I've shared quite a few things along this journey. But what I've found is the most important info to share are stories. Stories of amazing people, ordinary people, extraordinary people, doing things that are going to inspire you to action. So come and join me in this space because you're going to be inspired. Let's get started. It's our time. Hey there, it's Amy, and welcome to this episode of the podcast. I'm so happy to be your host, and thanks for joining me today for what I would call an insightful and inspiring episode. As I'm recording this today, it's actually on my birthday, and I'm looking out about, maybe 500 yards to Lake Michigan. I'm looking at white snow-covered ground that is just glistening like diamonds and surrounded by birch trees. So wherever you are, take a look at your surroundings outside and really feel grounded in that, because we do, and we have an amazing life and amazing world around us. So make sure that you take advantage of all of those opportunities to be in nature. So with that, I want to introduce my guest today, who really has an inspiring and encouraging journey of her own. She walks the walk, she talks the talk. She was an investigative reporter for many years. Pitbull Polacko, they used to call her on the street. And she also had to leave a very toxic relationship. She decided to align her passion and her purpose really around inspiring other women who might be experiencing something similar. So I encourage you to share this with someone that may need to hear these words today, as well as just really allow Amy's words to resonate with you and realize the power that you have in your heart, in your soul, and that you can always do the next right thing. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation with Amy Polacko. Well, welcome to this episode today of the Fearlessly Facing 50 and Beyond podcast. I'm Amy Schmidt, and I'm so excited. And I use the word excited because I'm excited for this conversation because I'm connecting with a woman that has probably been on my radar for years, probably 3+ years since I launched the podcast. Excited, not so much about what we're going to talk about, because what we're talking about is something that is intriguing, but is empowering more than exciting, I think. So I wanted to use that word, excited to connect with this guest and introduce you to her, but intrigued and empowered by her message. So Amy Polacko, Pitbull Polacko, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I love that word, empowered. And obviously I chose the name of my business, Freedom Warrior, for a reason. So it's very empowering. Oh, thanks. There's my logo. I'm a woman who is taking her power back.
Exactly. I love that. And I'm linking everything to the episode notes. So, you want to listen to this full episode. And then afterwards, go ahead and click on the links because you can read some articles from Amy. You can learn about her and what she does and how she can work with you. Or most importantly, somebody that's listening that may not be in a toxic relationship, but you may know of someone that is. So this is why Amy does what she does and I do what I do, is it's opening the dialogue about difficult topics, but sharing steps to empower and encourage women in ways to get their power back. I'm going to start today with a quote. And actually, Amy, I found this. I think you posted this on your Instagram recently, and it's from Gloria Steinem. And it simply says, the final stage of healing is using what happened to you to help others. I mean,
that's so true. Yes, I do too, even though I read it and I posted it. I think that's so true. It's been a long road to where I am today, but I think so many women can identify with it. And my heart has led me to this work. I've survived a toxic relationship, and I believe that we don't do enough to educate women and men, for that matter,
right,
on how to avoid toxic people. It's just not something we're taught when we turn 18, coming of age, right? We're taught about the birds and the bees. If you're a woman, you're taught about getting your period. Let's say,
right.
right?
Exactly. There's no manual for this. It's a little bit like, we get those manuals when we have kids. I know you have a son, what to expect when you're expecting, what to expect the toddler years, the teen years. There's websites out there to help with young adult kids. There's all these things. But when we talk about relationships with narcissist or toxic environments, it's something I think as women, a lot of times we shy away from. When you're out at a cocktail party or you're sitting around with your friends having a glass of wine, are you the one that really wants to, step into your power and say, I'm worried, I'm in this relationship and here's what's happening to me? Why do we inhibit those feelings and not release those?
Right. And also sometimes you're at a cocktail party and you see the way one partner's treating the other and a red flag goes up and you think this isn't right. But I think that's definitely true. It's not something we talk about. I want to bring this into mainstream conversation. And part of my healing has been really a return to journalism. I was a journalist years ago. I was a TV reporter. I went to Columbia journalism school and worked in Fargo, North Dakota, Albany, New York, and Philadelphia, and was an investigative reporter for years. But then got into PR and was the editorial director at Vassar College. Like I needed more flexibility having a child, but what I've been through has given me my voice back as far as writing. What I've been trying to do is shed a light on a lot of these issues, not just toxic relationships, but our family court system in this
Right.
country. So many different things that really center around women.
Yep, exactly. And I always say, all of a sudden you find yourself at this intersection of passion and purpose. It's what I do too. I was also a reporter, journalist, and all of a sudden you find out what you really, I feel, are meant to do. And a lot of times that's from creating this highlight reel of your experiences, your stories. And some of those may be failures, obstacles, challenges, but you take those and you propels you forward to do what you're doing. And I love that Amy is both a divorce coach, so she works with clients, as well as I think it's a relationship divorce coach, empowerment coach.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything I'm missing?
Nope, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And she was an investigative reporter. So like I say, a lot of times I use my Nancy Drew, my inner Nancy Drew. I always think I would be a heck of an FBI agent, maybe in another life. But, a lot of women, it's difficult for them to really trust their gut or use their intuition and get that power back. Why do you think that is?
I think that in these toxic relationships, when you are dealing with a true manipulator, they are so good at what they do. I mean, I was a former investigative reporter who,
Right.
fell for one, right? And, you know, you lose your sense of that because that's the whole idea. They're trying to make you doubt yourself. They're trying to kind of make you crazy in a way. And so you're questioning reality. You're questioning, am I overreacting? Because they are so good at what they do. But the other part of it is, I think you are absolutely right, Amy, is that I tell women all the time, especially those who are out there online dating, and I've written about that a lot,
Yes.
the Tinder swindler and those types of things, that you have to be your own investigative reporter, right?
Yeah.
You've got to check out who they are, because we are in this world where anybody can put whatever they want online, right? And it's not like years ago, I always say, where your cousin Bob had a roommate who he introduces you to and everybody knows him. It
Right.
just doesn't work that way.
So are people lying on, online dating, all of these things that we're using as, especially this demographic is going to be women 40 plus. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, a lot of studies show it. More than half of people lie online, and sadly, the majority of those are men who, will say they're single when they're married, or different things. A lot of psychological studies on this kind of make sense, that people portray who they hope they can be, but not necessarily who they are. Right? They may that they
Interesting.
want a committed, loyal relationship, but deep down, they're really not capable of that.
Right.
And some of them will say they want marriage, they're looking for a soulmate, all these things, when they're looking for anything but.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. That's so interesting. And we live in a part of the country. I mean, Amy and I live in the same area where I'm not trying to stereotype by any means. I love where I am, but it is a part of the country that there's a lot of wealth. There's a lot of showiness. There's a lot of, this party atmosphere, this whatever. And it's a lot of times I think that's women wear that a little bit and, but you kind of look at them and you can see a sadness in their eyes and
Mhm.
they haven't either gotten their power or stepped into their power to remove themselves from a bad relationship because of, the highlight reel, the greatest hits, the images that you're seeing on social media and what's being portrayed.
Absolutely, Amy. And I have so many clients. I mean, how much time do we have? I could tell you, of so many who are in that situation in our area of the country and other parts too. I have
Yeah.
clients in LA and Boston area now. And, women give up their power in these relationships because they often take one for the team and decide to stay home and care for the kids and give up their careers, which is great and noble and wonderful. But, an attorney I interviewed for one of the articles I wrote, it was the one about Giselle Bundchen and Tom, actually, about
Yes,
how many of us are jealous of her, women, because she got out of this marriage so easily. She had her own financial independence, but sadly, a
exactly.
lot of women don't, right? They're certainly not Giselle, or they certainly did not protect that. Whereas many attorneys will say there should be a prenup or there should be a postnuptial agreement that says, hey, if one partner stays home, they should be compensated for that, right?
Right.
Because women have a very hard time getting back into the workforce, earning what they could have. And our legal system does not compensate them for that.
Exactly. Exactly. Sadly, that's true.
Right.
When we talk about toxic relationships, there's a couple of words that come to mind. One I wanted to discuss wasn't it the 22 word of the year, gaslighting. This is one of those things in relationships, right? When you're looking at relationships, this is kind of an identifier that you're in a toxic relationship, right? Gaslighting.
It is. And it sounds weird for me to say I was happy. This was the word of the year, but I was
Yeah.
happy because I think it shows that more people are aware of this, right? They said, Merriam Webster said that the searches about psychological manipulation were up and that and gaslighting was consistently searched. So, sometimes people think, well, isn't gaslighting just lying? It's not.
Can you
Lying.
define it for us? So what is the definition of gaslighting?
Right. Gaslighting is when someone misleads you for their own benefit, right? It is much deeper and more insidious than lying. And it got its name from a movie in the 40s that starred Ingrid Bergman where her husband was telling her that the lights were not flickering when they were in fact flickering. And so it was called Gaslight, and that's where
That's
the
how it
name came.
started. Really?
Right.
That
Yes.
I had heard that somewhere. The gas lights that flicker. Of course, they
Mhm.
all flicker. And he was saying they're not flickering.
Right. So that relationship sums up gaslighting. He was trying to drive her crazy by denying her reality, the reality. And that's what gaslighting does, Amy. And that's why women, smart women who are in these relationships, you start to, you never think that your partner would be this evil. I know that was me. I always say that I am 100% against victim blaming. Often people think, oh, well, it's only down and out people who are
Yeah.
desperate or, have all these problems that fall for these manipulators. Not true. Not true at all. They go for powerful women. They go for smart women. They go for women who look good on their arms. They go for, people they can break down. And often a common thread is that the woman or victim could be a male, just believes in the good in humanity and can't imagine that someone, especially the person who's supposed to be their, partner in life, would do such a thing. So when someone gaslights, there's this cognitive dissonance. You can't like put it together. And they often
Mhm.
say, oh, you're just overreacting, honey. You're so sensitive. I love you and I'm so dedicated to you.
Right. Right. That's so interesting. And that's the word of the year. That's one of the words of the year for 2022. Wow, that is so interesting. I didn't realize that that was the real. I'd heard glimpses of something from back in the it was movie that started that, but that makes perfect sense. So it's mastering manipulation.
It is. And I think that it is the word of the year also because of a movement that is growing in our country and around the world. to recognize psychological abuse as abuse. Often people think, oh, well, she's not abused or he's not abused. I don't see a black eye. There's not a broken bone or a
Right.
bruise. That doesn't matter. Psychological abuse can be just as devastating. I have clients who have suffered physical and emotional and say emotional's far worse
Yeah.
because it destroys your whole sense of reality where you're not sure who you can trust anymore, and you question your own intuition and your own intelligence. How did I not see it?
Right.
Right. And so I think, as you said, years ago, no one wanted to talk about these things. But
No.
now on social media and in the media at large, there have been some great Netflix series I wrote about, Made and Bad Vegan for Ms.
Mhm.
Magazine, right?
How about
Books,
Inventing Anna? That was another one, right? I
another
mean,
one. Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. They can be women too. And so it's learning the signs to be on the lookout before
Yeah.
you are duped.
I don't know about you, but the way I start my day is usually with a cup of coffee. And I love to share brands with you of brands that I love. And I happen to really love this brand of coffee called Four Sigmatic. So wake up your mind with premium organic coffee that's really, really good for you. It isn't just a regular cup of coffee. It's actually coffee that enhances focus, boosts your mood, and even supports your immune system. So we certainly need that this time of year. So it's delicious, it's loved by thousands, and you know what? You can try it risk-free. If you don't love it, you can get your money back. So you got to check it out, Four Sigmatic Coffee. It is the real deal. You can go to go.foursigmatic, which is FOURSIGMATIC.com/BTG, and you get 30% off. That's a pretty good deal. So start your day with a Four Sigmatic cup of coffee. So that's one of the signs. Let's talk about love dumping, because that's another term that I know is used when you're in relationships that may be toxic. And so I just want to go back for a minute and just introduce you to Amy Polacko, because that's the guest today, and she's part of my series, Surround Yourself with Greatness. Amy and our paths have crossed so many years, and Amy is just a light for women and men too, but I think you mainly work with women as a coach for providing strategies, providing empowerment, just for women to remove themselves, to get their power back when they're in toxic relationships. Amy has been in kind of walk the walk, talk the talk, if I can say that. And, from her experience, she has taken that passion and she's helping women all over the country and world right now. And so I want you to think for a moment, if you're listening to this and saying, well, that's not me, this doesn't pertain to me, I'm gonna move on now. It does pertain to you, because you know somebody, whether it's a sister, a colleague, a friend, a neighbor, that may be in a toxic relationship. So I want you to continue listening, because it's such an important topic. And I want to give Amy a big shout out. I'm going to link everything to the episode notes so you can find her and work with her directly, or refer her to someone that may need her. Let's talk about love dumping, because I think it's another term that goes right up there with gaslighting. It's another sign of being in a toxic relationship.
Right. It's love dumping or love bombing.
Love bombing. Love bombing. I think
And
I said it wrong.
that's okay. I've heard both terms, but I did survive a narcissist nightmare. So I've been there and I understand. And some of the clients I have say, I thought maybe this was normal. And I say, no, this is not normal. So what I strive to do in my coaching is be the buddy I never had, right? Because you kind of think, this is crazy. Am I crazy, or is this happening? Right. So love bombing is part of the cycle of abuse, because that's how it starts. Right. And, culturally, Amy, we are conditioned as women. We watch Cinderella. We watch all these we read these books where, the guy comes in and sweeps her off her feet. And
Yeah.
many times women,
Rom-coms.
right. Exactly. Many times. And I know I felt the same way. I was like, this seems a little too good to be true. But then you think, well, maybe it's my time. I've had some bad relationships in the past, or, other women have relationships like this. It seems normal. I just need to relax and stop overanalyzing things. Right. And so what they do is they shower you with attention, one of the key things they do is, oh, they're great listeners in the beginning. And that's part of the
Mm.
love bombing. And you think, oh, wow, they're really interested in what they're actually doing. Like, if you didn't know this, you would never consider this, is they're gathering information for later. They will gather your weak points. Is it your child? Is it, something that's happened in your past? Whatever it is, they will find, do you feel like you're not good enough in your career? They will save it and use it later, but all the while pretending they're love you and you are their soulmate. They often say that. And I would say that love bombing's twin sister is future faking, because that's part of it. They talk about the future, how you have this future together. And I'm not saying on the first like 3 dates or something, but as time goes on, it
Yeah.
morphs into that, right? Like,
Yep.
oh, wouldn't you love to retire here, or we could take our kids there, or whatever it is. They mirror what you want, so they listen to what you want. um,
Mm.
I wanted that Norman Rockwell family, with
Right.
kids, and they knew that, right? So,
Exactly.
right.
Exactly. It's mastering manipulation.
Mhm.
As women, we are nurturers. I mean, we are nurturers. We're also sharers. So I want to go to that, but let's talk about the nurturing part first, especially for women listening that might be in a relationship like this. We want to fix it, right? We want to be that person to say, oh, they're going to change. I can
Mhm.
change them. I can just do a little more. It's my fault.
That's so
It gives
true.
me goosebumps because I know people that have been in terrible relationships, and I've been on the receiving end of hearing them say, but it's okay. It's going to get better.
Mhm. These relationships are a nightmare, and they turn your world upside down. So anything you can do to recreate a sense of normalcy again is just natural, right? It takes an abuse victim an average of 7 times to leave, for a myriad of reasons, right? Financial, kids, but also because I know I went through that cycle too, of like giving another chance and going to another marriage counselor and all of that, because you don't want to fail either, but you're just prolonging it. It's often a game, and it's not going to get any better. But I do think that these predators, and that's what they are,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a good
they
word. Yep.
they identify good-natured people who are nurturers, which most women are, right? But kind, sometimes, I don't know if you ever watched Dirty John, that
Oh,
series,
sure. Yeah.
right? And Deborah was, just this kind Christian woman who believed in second chances for people, right?
Yeah. She
And
did.
so that's what they are banking on. And they will keep using that and keep using it. They will hit those vulnerable points to rope you back in time and time again. But you can get caught in that cycle for years, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I think that's it's so interesting. I had May Musk on the show back in 2019, and May is somebody that I really admire for many reasons. But I after hearing her story and after talking offline and really developing a relationship, she left a toxic relationship in the middle of the night with 3 kids and got in a car and drove and had no money and didn't know what she was going to do.
Mhm.
She did that. She stepped into her power and did it and made the change. And it's very difficult for some people to do that. So, what's the first step somebody can do? If somebody's listening or somebody knows of someone that's in a relationship, what's the first step they can do to get their power back?
They should definitely seek support. And if anyone listening has not seen the Netflix series Made, watch it. She may be a single mom whose life may not be exactly like yours, but the themes are the same. And this about the social system and the gaps in between. You've got to set up a support team. And I run a support group for single women, but I also have women who come who are scared to death, walk into our meetings like shaking and crying because they're just getting the courage up to maybe leave, to those who are in the middle of it, to those who are out or many years out, right? And that's
Yeah.
why I wanted that community, because the people out can give support to the others. I'm not embarrassed to say that I went to the Women's Center in Danbury, now the Center for Empowerment, because I had an attorney listen to my story and say, this is abuse.
Yeah.
And that happens to the main character in Made, where she's like, yeah, but he didn't hit me, and the woman's like, the social worker there is like, this is abuse. This is still abuse.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so we have so many, and wherever you live,
Yeah.
there is a center waiting to help you, friends and family, and having them ready too, because and legal help as well, knowing
Right.
ahead of time.
Right.
I often tell my clients, this is a game of chess and you want to stay one step ahead of them, right? So don't let on. It's probably not going to go well if you say, I know you're a narcissist and
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to do this. Yeah.
gaslighting me.
Yeah. I want to talk about the community part of it, because you're wonderful at building community, and women thrive on community. They do. People need people. Women need people. I want to, let's talk about this, because we're both reporters. So let's talk about maybe a person that somebody listening may know somebody, and we all know it. We look at pictures of women and you can tell in their eyes, I
Yeah.
think, if they're hollow-eyed or there's sadness there. You can tell that. So if you're listening and have somebody that like that you may have an inkling that something's going on, we need to be that friend, right? We need to be that person. And what does that conversation look like? How do you approach somebody like that? If you're worried about them and think they may not be happy, they may be in a toxic relationship, what can we do?
I mean, my first step was to take them somewhere alone, right, for lunch or something, and say, look, I know you, I've known you for years, this is confidential, you can tell me anything. A lot of times people are embarrassed, right? Some of
Right.
my clients, if you saw their lives from the outside, multiple homes, multiple cars, it's, and they don't even have access to $20 to go have coffee with their friend. They have to beg. And and this is coercive control. Like, they're watched. All their financial transactions are watched. They're even tracked sometimes, all these things. So, someone's scared and they're embarrassed. So, anything you can do to relate to them, like, it's okay, or I've been through something like this, or I have a friend who, I'm just worried about you. And I would let them talk about it. Sometimes these women are just waiting for that one person to reach out and break the silence, because you're right. It's, the Facebook image of everything.
Filters. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And, I think that's a good first step. And also, I've had married women bring friends to my Strong Savvy Women support group, and they're a support, because the woman, their friend, is too scared to go alone. So anything
Right.
you have to do that, I think is really important.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I always use this, I'm such a vision driven person. So I picture a room of women, and, you're sitting there in your seat, and all of a sudden something comes up and you're like, looking around thinking, that so is me. I want to raise my hand, but I'm hesitant to do it. But then when you put your hand up and you see other women put their hands up, and they're like, we got you. Like, you're not in it alone. And I think that's something women really, really need to realize.
That's so true. We sometimes go through, boxes of tissues at my, I mean, recently we covered trauma, like, how do you trust again?
Yeah.
We've, had divorce attorneys giving tips. We had real estate and the single women. We also do social events too. But when we go around the room and people share whatever they want to, there is a definite bond.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I'm sure you and most of your listeners have heard of this book, The Body Keeps the Score, right?
Yes.
By Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. I don't know how long it's been on the New York Times list. We have to be going on 2 years by now, but it's still on the top. But he talks about PTSD and trauma. And I think we are becoming a more trauma-informed society. I think right behind me, I've got Oprah's book, What Happened to You?
Right.
But he talks about in all his studies of people going through divorce and, domestic abuse trauma to military vets, that the one determining factor that pointed to recovery was having a support network. And so I think that's, to your point, Amy, that is so crucial. Sometimes people are so embarrassed, they just want to go through this alone, but you've got to reach out.
Yeah. Oh, great. I love that. Thank you so much. Who wants to double their confidence? You've heard me say it many times. Confidence is a muscle. It needs to be stretched and flexed and worked, because as we age, our confidence, it ebbs and flows. Well, I am so excited, and I know you've heard about it before, but Kristen Cofield, my partner at Better Than Gossip, who is a culinary disruptor, she is a wellness expert, and I have partnered. And I talk about the mindset part of confidence, overcoming your fears, stepping into your power, telling your story. And Kristen talks about the wellness aspects of confidence, hydration, sleep, nutrition, the things we need, the combination we need that makes us limitless, unstoppable. And we have a course for you. And the important thing about that course and the exciting thing about that course is that you can become an affiliate. You can make a little money with the Mind and Body Confidence course as an ambassador, an affiliate for the course. So that means you take the course, and then what do we do as women? We share. Something we love, we share. You can share the course with others. You can be a teacher, a role model, a disruptor around confidence. So check it out, Mind and Body Confidence. You can go to betterthangossip.com. You can purchase the course there for $197. It's a 14-day course that will change your life. It's evergreen, so you can use it over and over and over again. Otherwise, you can go to fearlesslyfacing50.com, 50 spelled out. It's available there as well. So check it out. Come and join us on this journey and double your confidence. Let's talk about you for a second, because, this is tough stuff. And I always say life is a tough sport, and this is tough stuff, and you're dealing with this, and you're listening. You're on the receiving end now of listening to these stories and these journeys of these women and helping them get their power back. Are there days, Amy, when you're just like, this is a lot. This is a lot. I've lived this myself. And those days when you're like, I don't know, I just got to put the covers back over my head. I don't know if I can do this. How do you continue? How do you do it? What's your superpower, your strength there?
Well, you called me Pitbull Polacko in the beginning. I think I've always had this drive and a fire under me, and I've directed it to this area, this cause, this mission, right? I would say I don't have days where I put the covers over my head, but sometimes the whole systemic, misogyny we deal with, and family court system, that gets to me. I've lived it. I've been in the family court system for various frivolous things, and on a small scale compared to some of the women I have interviewed for stories and I know who have lost custody of their children for no reason.
Right.
And that is hard to deal with, I think, because you're up against this Goliath. But
Yeah.
I do think, I think the way I get through it is just the same way, women going through these toxic relationships get through. I have a network of women who we work in this field, and we lift each other up and we remind each other why we're doing this. We support each other's work. And I think that is really important. I need them on those days, because sometimes when you hear these stories, it is unbelievable. I mean, I'm, active with Connecticut Protective Moms. I have had them in some of my stories. I mean, Jennifer Doulos is an example of what's happened. It's
Wow.
the first time you experience it. I know I did. You think, this is America? Wait, this is America. This is what happens to women in family court in America? Because you think the judge is going to see the truth of what's going on. And studies have shown that when women bring up abuse, they're more likely to lose custody of their children. They're vilified and not believed.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's that is really heartbreaking, because every time I do a story, I have women from across the country contact me and want me to tell their story. So that is the hardest part for me. I need a team of reporters. I need to clone myself.
You do. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the hardest part.
Incredible. Well, Amy, you're so good at what you do.
Oh,
And your passion's driving your purpose. It really is. And I think at any age we can find that as women and do what we're really meant to do. And you're doing what you're meant to do. I want to ask you, I've got two questions. And one is about friendships, because we talk about this a lot on the podcast. Just because of women of a certain age, relationships change, friendships change. Some blossom at completely different times. Like I say, unexpected treasures come into your life, and all of a sudden, this is a great new friendship, great new relationship. Some may dissipate a bit. When you were going through this, or as you see your clients going through this, when they're getting their power back and removing themselves from a toxic relationship, what do those friendships look like? They've got to evolve and change, right? Some are on your side, maybe some aren't. And how do you deal with that?
I've had to deal with that. And I also coach clients on how to deal with that, whether it's friends or family who don't believe, well, it's not that bad. I mean, look at your life. You guys have a place in Bermuda, like stop complaining,
Yeah.
just deal
Yeah.
with it kind of thing, right? I think they change. I think you realize who your real friends are, and I think you do make new ones. I often say at my Strong Savvy Women support group, we're all part of this exclusive club none of us wanted to be a part of, right?
Right.
But in a joking way, we make the best of it. You will find that you resonate with different people. It's tough in our area and in many areas to be a single person or a single mom in a place that values couplehood. So I think the single
Right.
moms kind of find each other, and that's why we do social events as well.
Fabulous. Yep.
On another note, I think when you become aware of toxic relationships, they're not just romantic. I think most people who go through this learning and awareness and metamorphosis, I always say, I don't want people walking around thinking everyone's out to get them, right? No, that's
Right.
not what I'm
Exactly.
saying. But you do start to reevaluate relationships. I know I did, some friendships that are like, you know what? This is really serving me, right?
Right.
There's
Good
some
point.
stuff going on here I really didn't notice before, but now I do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's important. And I love what you said about me. Obviously, where I'm fearlessly facing 50 is that, when people say something about, our age, where I say, I am just starting. Are you kidding? Like,
I'm just starting. Yeah. You get better clarity. You get more focus. It's like, when you get a new pair of glasses and you put them on and it's a little blurry at first, and then all of a sudden it comes into focus and you get this clarity about what you're supposed to be doing and the people that are depositing into your tank and the people that are withdrawing from it and how much bandwidth you really have to give. And that's really why I wanted to have you on this series too, because you have done amazing things. You have built amazing community. You are so on the pulse and in the heart of every community you've been in. But I know where I live in Ridgefield, I mean, people look to you as a real support for them in many ways. And I applaud you for that. And that's really why I wanted to have you on here because, you've lived this and you've come out on the other side and you are powerful and strong and you're helping other women be powerful and strong. So I applaud you for that.
thank you. And, when I spoke at the Women's Center for Empowerment, that helped me when I was going through the abuse situation, and I said I wasn't supposed to be here, right? I reject all the stereotypes of victims, right? It's anyone. And I think the more we do that, the better. And the reason I spoke is the year before there was a woman who also you would think, what happened to her? Her husband beat her. She was hiding in the woods from him. I mean, it was a crazy story. And I thought if she can stand up there and talk about that, I can stand up there and explain
Mm.
how psychological abuse is abuse. And so I was inspired by her. I hope me speaking and what I do inspires other people.
Mm.
That's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
Exactly. It does. It does. This has been a goosebump episode for sure. And you've shared so much. I do want to ask you the question that I ask everybody. And that is, Amy, if you're sitting on the couch and you look over and there's Amy, Pitbull Amy at 30, Pitbull Polacko at 30, what advice would you give her?
I would say that when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Right? That's Maya Angelou's quote. I learned that lesson too late, right? I won't say too late because I'm making lemonade from lemons, right? But if I had looked at the world that way, I think it certainly could have saved me a lot of heartache and pain. And let's be real, a lot, financial devastation goes along with divorce in these relationships because many times there's financial abuse. So what I set out to do now is to educate women to know those signs, right? Sooner before it's too late. And hopefully one by one, I am able to do that in the work I'm doing.
Mm, that's so powerful. I'm going to end the episode the same way I've started it. And that is with Gloria Steinem's quote that Amy put on her Instagram, which I'll also link to the episode notes. The final stage of healing is using what happened to you to help others. Thanks, Amy Polacko. You're pretty amazing.
Thank you for having me, Amy. And I just want to say I offer a free consultation to everyone who needs help. Go to my website, book a time on my calendar. I'd love to talk to you.
Thank you so much. We'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope that this episode inspired you, encouraged you, and challenged you. Because when we share our stories, they're inspiring. You know what? It's important for people to connect. Connection is key. People need people. So as you go forward this week or today, be a difference maker, be a change maker, not only in your life, but in somebody else's. Reach out with a text, an email, or a phone call. Connection is key. It builds community and it builds confidence. Go forth and be awesome, and I'll see you soon.